So it says we are live.
The files in the folder.
The files in the folder. Japan is in the river. You don't happen
Hello,
to know.
chat room.
Hello, chat room?
Chat.
Chat room.
Are you there?
Hello.
There's what, a 20-second turnaround?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there's.
We have 0 viewers, so they're not there yet.
Slackers.
Is it one that says Matt's Endless?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Cody, you should just take like whatever else on the list you are vaguely interested in, and then I'll get whatever's left.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I missed about half of this stuff.
This is how the podcast goes. You take stories that you have not read yet, and then you read them real quick right before the show or during the show. Actually, you can do it if you're really good.
Does it count that I'm actually rereading my own to make sure I remember any of it?
Yes, you have to do
Always.
Sometimes I flat out forget that I wrote things shortly after I post them, and I go down the list like, oh wait, did I write that?
The only thing I request is don't pull the David, which is where I hey, this is the thing we're going to talk about. David, tell us about it. He's like, oh crap.
He's very no nonsense about his.
I didn't read that story.
Stories.
on.
I was thinking about that actually right before we joined the chat room.
The only thing I know about this virtual reality headset is the picture of Phil Nicholson in it.
Yes.
That picture, I swear, it's going to destroy the product line. Just
It looks so
dead on arrival.
weird. Why would they like, hey, let's put all the sensors like in these weird little pits all randomly on the front? I'm sure there's probably an engineering reason. It just looks stupid.
The best answer I can come up with is reduce weight. Barely. Yeah, there's nothing good there.
Although Gabe Newell says it doesn't make you sick.
It's not officially released yet. They could still turn around and say, hey, you know what? We were wrong. This thing's ugly. Here's a version that's like half the size.
HTC's got pictures of it all over their website, though. They're super proud of it.
Yeah, but they do that with so many random things.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, I just did an image search for the HTC Vive, whatever.
Vive?
And wow, like scrolling through pictures of people using this is just awkward. It's just awkward looking. Like the Samsung Gear VR looks so like unnoticeable compared. Like just a VR.
Yeah, it's an unusual product. It's very weird that HTC is the company that Valve partnered with to do this. I feel like it would have made more sense to just hook up with Oculus or something.
Well, let's talk about our order of the introductions at the beginning of the show. It'll be the order of the cast list on the spreadsheet.
On line 3 on the spreadsheet. For the second week in a row, Ryan, you are the most tenured person on the show.
That's right.
Well, except for Bob.
Yeah. Well, you don't count.
We don't count.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're not on the show. We're at the show.
Bertel, you are the second most tenured person. 4 shows in, you've already moved up on the ladder.
Yeah.
Folks, we are
most of those in 1 month.
You've just been like, no, whatever, I'll do the show. It's like everybody's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go. I'm going to be gone for a few weeks in a row. Meanwhile, I'm just like, well, I guess maybe
I'm
we'll
one
have...
show from being a regular.
Yeah, really.
Only 5 more pink topics.
For a second there, I just thought you said I'm one show from being irregular. I didn't
Well, being on
realize
the show does make you irregular.
No, we don't have that side effect because we don't have fiber, Matt.
Well, irregular. Fiber is what makes you regular.
Right. That's why he can't be regular.
This is a great line of conversation.
Yeah. I'm not reading either one of those things in the chat room. Hello, room. It's been forever since I've been with you all. Hey, Brian's back.
I totally noticed he was gone.
I noticed he was gone.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm not good at that.
I actually was going to hit him up until I posted about death by brownies, and he commented on that, so I knew he was still alive. It's good.
Death by brownies?
Yes, I decided that when I go, I want to die death by brownies.
How? Do I want to know how?
The cause of death from a more technical standpoint of death by brownies.
I don't know.
Would it be like suffocation?
Probably suffocation.
Yeah, it doesn't sound pleasant at all.
I can't really think of any way to die that.
It's basically drowning in partially digested brownie. That sounds unpleasant.
Death by snoo. I don't even know what that means.
That's Futurama.
Ah.
I don't know, but
I usually get the pop culture references, but I don't know Futurama.
That is unfortunate. You should watch Futurama.
I know I'm like really late to this, but so is your video coming through on my Hangout? Is that how this is set up, Bob?
Yeah. See, my name is Matthew.
So like whenever you talk, it shows my video, and whenever I talk, it shows my video, which is pretty normal.
Yeah, but if I say something prolonged, I'll click on myself like that. And then it's like, hey, everybody, I have my own window. Look at me, I'm real. Attacked by pre-Girl Scouts. Oh, that's not good.
What?
No, that's brownies with the capital B. No brownies with the capital B. This is a family show. Actually, it's not really at all. Family show. We've got some listeners now, viewers, which is good. 2 minutes to show. 2 minutes, everyone. Gotta flicker the lights on and off, as if this were the theater.
Tabs.
What's that?
I've opened far too many to be a problem.
An open fart may be a problem.
I've opened too many Chrome tabs for all of this stuff.
I'm wondering how far into the show we can get while I pretend that this is a tablet from Lenovo before anybody actually notices that it's not.
It's not.
Sony have one just like that?
I think so.
That weird book cover style.
Yeah, the what is it? The
or
S,
the magazine.
The S tablet or tablet S or whatever.
The S was the one that was clamshell. The P.
No, that was the P. I think it was the other way, wasn't it? The P was the clamshell one. I think we just talked about this like a week ago, and I looked it up. That's the only reason I think I know. I might be completely wrong.
I thought the P was the 2-screen myself, but I may be mistaken.
How ridiculous was that product, though? Who in their right mind?
Yeah, the P was the P.
That's good. You have an encyclopedic knowledge of ridiculous Android products. Either Bertel or Cody, you're going to take those last two pink ones. Making a command decision.
Do we really want to cover them?
I think the Huawei watch we should probably talk about. We can kill the tablet thing. I don't really care.
I mean, you could just read the topic. And ask for comments. Peace.
To be fair, I'm totally listening to David with this one.
Hey, look at all the topics are white. We can go now. We have 5 seconds. 4.
Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, March 5th, 2015. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Bertel King.
And I'm Cody Toombs.
And my name is Bobby Severns. Welcome to the show. It's Cinco de Marcho.
I don't think that's a thing, Bob.
It is if I say it is, Matt.
It is, well, actually, isn't today technically the last day of MWC? I think there was things today that we just decided to skip out on, but...
It's last day of Milwaukee.
So, but being that as it is, there's plenty of topics in the hot sheet, so we should start
the
it
what?
off. The hot sheet.
The what?
Hot sheet. All right, so we're kicking off a little bit with HTC because they jumped the gun. They went pre-MWC, made an announcement before the show even started, and before Samsung got around to doing their before the show even started announcement. And no surprise to anyone, the One M9 was announced. It is official. It is a thing. It is here. And Bertel, what should we know about it?
Yeah, so the M9 that was revealed is, you could call it the lesser exciting of the leaked images. It looks like the M8 just with, the big 20 megapixel lens. It still has the HTC logo on the bottom. Has a Snapdragon 810, 3 gigs of RAM, Zen 7. Fortunately, the 4 icons we saw leaked in the navigation bar, you can edit those and move them around. And so out of the box, it has the standard 3. Still your metal phone, and it's kind of a modest improvement over the M8. There's no major revamp here. It's just just refine what's good. And so it's been announced it's going to come to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint. And what do you guys think of it?
I think it's probably going to be kind of a boring phone, I guess. People like things that look new, and this looks exactly like the M8 except for the camera on the back, and I guess they moved the button, and the shape is ever so slightly different. I guess you probably wouldn't even be able to tell if you saw it from the front.
Yeah. Seeing it from the back, it's pretty obvious because of the whole camera thing.
Yeah, it's only got the one big camera. I mean, at least they didn't try to do the duo camera thing again. That would have been crazy of them.
I think the dual camera thing was pretty much dead when, like, a week after it was announced, they released the Google camera that did the exact same thing on just about any phone you wanted it to.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the Galaxy S5 had that functionality too. I mean, you don't need a second camera to do that, and it's not like it was even particularly good on the M8. It still had trouble finding edges, and even like that Dell tablet that has like 2 cameras for like range finding is not very good at finding edges. I mean, computers are just not super good at that. But I don't know. I mean, one interesting thing about this phone though is that it's still just a 5-inch 1080p screen, and it has a pretty big battery. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 2800 something. But I mean, it's a gigantic battery for how small the screen is. It's probably going to get really, really good screen on time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because
I'm actually happy they kept it at 1080.
Yeah, I mean, at 5 inches, I really can't imagine that you're gonna notice a difference. I mean, even on bigger phones, it's pretty questionable most of the time. But at 5 inches, I think 1080p is fine. It's gonna be like, a thing on the spec sheet that they don't have that might hurt them a little bit. But I mean, looking at it from a completely objective point of view, 1080p is fine.
when most people are staring at it in a store, comparing two phones side by side, they're not going to look at the specs that closely and say, "Oh my God, I need those extra pixels." They'll just look at the phones and compare them on everything else.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, I bet that HTC kind of didn't have any choice but to stick with 1080p because 1440p LCDs are still kind of not super good. Like the screen on the G3 was pretty, mediocre, and HTC doesn't really have experience doing AMOLEDs, so I'm sure they just wanted to source what they knew they could work with.
Now, Bertel, do you use an M8 now? Daily driver.
M7.
M7. So is this one gonna get you to upgrade?
Yeah, when I do upgrade, this will probably end up being the phone I get. I'm a big fan of metal phones, and I still personally think this design is better than what the competition's bringing, even if it is familiar, if it's not broke. And I think, it's hard to write a really exciting blog post about a phone that does look pretty much the same, but at the same time, HTC's really gone through and addressed some of the weak areas of the phone. They've moved the button from the top to the side. It has a better camera, and they've added nice tweaks to Sense, some customization options that are good. Up the processor, up the RAM. At worst, the only thing you could say they messed up on was they left the logo underneath, which really, that's a very tech nerd kind of complaint. So
yeah, our readers are not normal people. I think regular people don't really care about that. But
and to be fair, even if they hadn't gaudied it up with their logo, Verizon would have done it for them. So
yeah, you can't leave any free space on the phone because Verizon will find a way to cram a logo on there. I mean, it's like they have it in like the corner up on the top of the G3 where there's no bezel on the phone. They're like, nope, we're gonna stick it right here, this tiny little spot.
That's probably why they passed on the Sharp Aquos phone.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's no place for a logo on this. But the thing about the camera with the 1.8, I'm wondering how good it'll be with processing, because they've been dealing with the 4-megapixel sensor for a couple of years. Hopefully they've done what they need to do with the app to make it actually take good pictures, because just having a 20-megapixel sensor is not necessarily going to get you awesome pictures. Even Sony when they do 20-megapixel sensors in their phones, they're using those extra pixels to oversample. It spits out 8-megapixel images unless you turn on manual mode. So I mean, hopefully HTC has figured out what they're going to do with all of those pixels. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of, I don't know. I feel like a lot of pictures might just be kind of noisy and not super good.
So
even at 8 megapixels is a step up.
Yeah, double the pixels.
All right, so HTC also had a interesting piece of head hardware that they announced at the show this time around. So Ryan, what's the HTC Vive?
I guess the Vive or the Revive or whatever they're calling it. It's a virtual reality headset. They're making it in partnership with Valve. It will sort of be like this official Steam VR headset thing. There will be games for it. They announced a couple at the show, and it looks really, really weird. I mean, it's a very large headset, and like the sensors are like on the front of it, like in these little recessed like divots, and it just looks gross. But I guess internally it's supposed to be quite impressive. I think it has 2 screens. I forget what resolution they said, and I don't know if it's in our post. It's like they're an odd resolution. But according to Gabe Newell from Valve, it won't make you sick. Which, hey, if that's true, good for them.
That's the tagline underneath the marketing campaign.
It won't make you sick.
Vive. It won't make you sick. Boom.
Insta-buy.
I don't know why, but for some reason when I see people wearing these things, I keep expecting all the sensors on the outside to blink independently. And it creeps me out.
That would actually make it better, I think, if they were all like, they look like little eyes from the outside.
Yeah. I don't know.
You've now convinced me that if I ever get this thing, I'm going to stick those like googly eyes right on the front.
Nice.
Perfect. It will be constantly sensing something, and we have no idea what, but at least it'll look good doing it. All right, so HTC also decided that they were tired of being left out of the fitness band game, so they announced one of those too while they were at it, right, Cody?
That they did. They teamed up with Under Armour to make a fitness band. Another fitness band. This one has a PM OLED display on it, and the one distinguishing trait is it has GPS. How much that's going to help, how great that's going to be on battery life, they didn't really say, but it's a thing, and it's going to cost $200. I don't know. I can't get too excited about fitness bands. They all seem kind of the same, and none of them are really that special anymore.
Yeah, and for $200, that's gonna probably be the price of a lot of smartwatches going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. Okay, so with the GPS built into it, are you going to be able to look at maps on the thing? Because ultimately, my guess is it's going to report your GPS location back to its partner app on your phone. But guess what? My phone already has GPS, so I don't know what the point is.
Well, you can take it running with you, and then when you get back and are in range of your phone again, it can sync the GPS data. That's that's what the Smartwatch 3, the Android Wear device, I think does. You can take it running and use an app that accesses the local GPS, and then it all syncs back to the phone when you get home.
Right.
I was going to mention, I think this is targeted more for runners, because runners really, they don't want to take a lot of stuff with them, so if they can go with just a band, maybe a small clip-on music player or something like that. You don't have to carry around a lot of bulk, but you still have that granularity when it comes to tracking your location.
I like to emphasize that, this is not a Fitbit Flex or something you're just going to tuck on while you're going about your day. It has a very distinct fitness look to it that you're going to take it to go work out, and then you're going to take it off.
Yeah, it's a pretty substantial little wristband.
It's a substantial little wristband.
Yeah.
Well said. All right, let's talk about Samsung. They had an announcement pretty much immediately after HTC's. They said, "We'll see your phone announcement, and we'll do you one better." The Galaxy S6 and the Galaxy S6 Edge are official. Ryan, what do we know about those fabulous devices?
Well, we know pretty much everything at this point, what with them being official and all. So this is this is Samsung's attempt to sort of come back from the mediocrity that was the Galaxy S5, and they've done it by kind of rethinking everything about how they design phones. So there's no removable battery, there's no micro SD card slot, there's a sort of rounded metal band around the phone. From the bottom, it looks kind of a lot like an iPhone 6. That you will hear that comparison a lot. But it's just, a very sort of slick-looking device. I'm surprised that it looks as nice as it does, considering Samsung has always been very sort of concerned with design secondary to the feature set. So it has an Exynos chip inside instead of a Snapdragon. So the benchmarks we've seen on it so far look really good. A benchmark doesn't necessarily tell you everything about a device, but it is, a really fast chip apparently. The screen is still 5.1 inches, and it is 1440p this time. So that's more pixels than you'll probably ever need at that resolution. And without the,
do we have a number on the density on that? 500.
It's some huge number. I don't think it's in the post. It's probably 500 something. I don't know. If somebody wants to calculate that real quick. But yeah, it's going to be an obscenely high pixel density. And since there's no micro SD card slot, they've ditched the 16 gigabyte version of the phone. So it starts at 32, then there's 64 and 128. And apparently, at least according to T-Mobile, they will. They mentioned in one of their demo videos of it that they're going to have 64 and 128 gigabytes. So, that would that would be the first time, really, that the larger storage versions of these recent Galaxy phones have come to the U.S. We usually just get the basic one. So it's a very sort of different phone from Samsung. I mean, you can still tell it's a Samsung phone when you look at it. It's got the home button on the bottom. It's a fingerprint sensor again, but you can just touch it instead of swiping on it. 16 megapixel camera. I mean, it's the Galaxy S5 fixed with better hardware.
Yeah, I think the better hardware is probably the thing that has caught most people, I guess, by surprise would be the best way to put it. I mean, we've been hearing about Galaxy phones with premium materials, and we all knew about the Galaxy Alpha as being this thing that was out there. But I don't know, it kind of seems like they just took that to a whole nother level with the S6.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are people who are going to be upset that you can't take the battery out, but I think making that sacrifice allowed Samsung to make the overall device much more appealing. I mean, at least according to David, it feels super, super premium. Like, you pick this up and you like totally believe that this is, a flagship $600 phone, as opposed to like the S5. When you pick it up, you're kind of like, I mean, I guess. I mean, I would pay something for this, but I don't know if it's like, a really premium product.
So one of the
the S6 is a really
sorry.
Yeah, the S6 is like a really sexy device. I like everything, just about everything I read about it. The only thing is it's still TouchWiz, and I don't want to be that guy, but yeah.
But you're gonna be that guy.
He's a guy.
I don't know. I've taken to calling it Material Whiz until we see how good or bad it actually is. It seems like they kind of tried. They might have done better with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they incorporated more of the lollipop stuff into it. I mean, it seems like most OEMs are. They're sort of like they're doing like the multitasking interface with cards, and then all of the notifications are on the lock screen. So a lot of this stuff is a little bit more universal. It's consistent from one device to the next. But I mean, it's still going to be blue and green all over the place. But they are going to have a theme engine in the new TouchWiz. Although most of the themes that they showed off were really, really, really ugly.
And this surprises us?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they didn't explain like if they're going to let developers add themes to it or how that's going to work. I hope so though, because whoever made the ones in that store, it's like they're like really niche things. Like, do you want a pink interface with like little puppies and kitties for your icons? Here you go. We can do that. But what if you just want something that looks, not like that, something a little bit more understated? But there's at least hope that you'll be able to change TouchWiz a little bit this time and make it not so unattractive.
I might be crazy, and I'm all for theming, but don't touch my icons. Seriously. If you're going to theme icons, you have to theme every single one of them, and there's no way you can do that.
Yeah, these are, I guess the icon themes, they're only for the stock ones. So it's basically like if you just hate Samsung's phone icon, then I guess, the themes will change that.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right. Well, one of the new features that we had a feeling was coming due to some acquisitions that happened in the last month or so is the Samsung Pay functionality, which supposedly is going to bring mobile payments to a lot more people than previously had it. Right, Cody?
Yeah. So Samsung wants to get into this game with Google and Apple and try to get all of the customers and users onto their payment systems. So instead of going with just NFC like Apple and Google are doing, they tried also adding something called magnetic secure transmission. Basically, it's a coil inside the phone that imitates all of the magnetic signals that you would create by sliding a card through a reader. So it should work, supposedly, with about 90% of the payment terminals out there by just holding your phone up, tapping something, and magically the terminal thinks you slid a card. They've partnered up with Visa and MasterCard, and they're working with a bunch of other companies now to try to get those in too. It looks like a really neat technology. I want to know how well it actually works first. I can picture so many people going up in line and being like, "Hey, here's my phone. Can you just hold this next to your reader and it'll make things happen?" And everyone's gonna look at you like you're an idiot.
Yeah, you only want to use this when there's like the card swipe kiosk thing next to you, and even then, cashiers are gonna think that you're a crazy person. But I mean, you still kind of get weird looks just using NFC payments, so I don't know. Maybe people will adjust to it. Supposedly, though, the Samsung got this technology from Loop Pay, which they just acquired a few weeks ago, and I think we talked about it on the show. But supposedly, the Loop Pay stuff works. It's just before this, you had to have like a dongle or a case on your phone or whatever to do it. But I mean, if it's going to be built into the S6 and it works, then that could be cool.
I'd love to see it in action. I want to try it, but I don't. I wonder how many people would actually buy a phone for this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's the sort of thing where if people like see someone using this in real life, they'll be like, "Oh, what phone is that?" And they might then sort of like become aware that there is a new Samsung phone that looks a lot different than the other ones.
All right, so one last thing on the Samsung announcement list was, well, you know, HTC announced a new VR headset, so Samsung, of course, had to announce one of those too. So Ryan, what's going on with the new Gear VR? Is it anything new or just a new revision of the same thing?
It's pretty much just a different size. I mean, now it supports the S6 and the S6 Edge, so you can plug those phones in because of course Samsung's vision of virtual reality involves you just sort of sticking your phone up in front of your face. Instead of having like a headset with a dedicated screen inside. So yeah, that's what they're doing. That's the thing, and you'll be able to buy it at some point soon.
And just so we're clear, the HTC Vive actually does have its own screen. Is that correct?
I believe so. That's my understanding. It's like it's a standalone VR headset thing.
That's what I got from too. I don't think there was any mention of. Normally, I think they would mention if you have to put your phone in there.
Yeah, that would be unusual.
All right, so let's move on to Sony, who had a new tablet to announce. The Xperia Z4 tablet is official. We heard a little bit about it already. They kind of spilled their own beans on that one, but it's official now. So Ryan, anything cool and interesting about this one?
The thing with Sony devices is they just sort of like change the insides a little bit and give it a new name, and they're like, and that's the new product. And that's kind of the case with the Z4 tablet. It looks like all of their recent 10-inch tablets. It's very thin. It's water and dust resistant, and supposedly it'll have a very good battery life. But it looks like a very nice tablet. It has a 2K display. It'll run Lollipop, and supposedly they say 17 hours of video playback. So I don't think they announced an actual price, but they said June it will be out, and they will have both Wi-Fi and LTE variants.
You're basically saying that I can binge watch the entire House of Cards season on one charge.
I guess, yeah, sure. If you want, might not. You might get sort of like a cramp in your arm after a while from holding the tablet that long. Even though it is pretty light, it's probably not comfortable for long.
I'm used to cramps in my arm.
Yeah, so 17 hours is actually pretty impressive for a tablet that thin.
Yeah.
And that many pixels.
It has a 6,000 milliamp hour battery.
6,000?
It's more than 5,000.
Or as my son would say, 6,000 milliamp battery. All right, so let's talk about Huawei because they had probably one of the more interesting products leak out ahead of the announcement this week, and that's the Huawei Smartwatch, which, well, I mean, even Smartwatch probably would have been a more original name for the product. So, Cody, there's the Huawei Watch and a couple other wearables. So, what did they have to bring to the table there?
Well, if you've seen the ads for the watch and you really have to, it looks kind of great. The ads themselves are possibly kind of douchey. They they show basically the almost sort of snobbiest possible group of like frat boys ever meeting back up.
This is
But
very true.
but the watch itself looks pretty great. It kind of resembles a little bit the Moto 360, but with a bezel, a really thin bezel though, and the screen looks pretty great. It has a design to it that actually deserves to be there, and they of course don't have the flat tire look on a round watch, so it looks like a genuinely good watch to get. The problem with it is it's got the same specs as everything else that has been coming out for the last few months. So do you really want to get this now and see a second gen come in a couple months, or do you just wait?
The other thing is that if you look at it from the side, it looks pretty thick. I mean, I think thicker than most of the other first gen watches. So I don't know. I mean, if you most of the pictures of it you can see are from a very flattering angle, but I don't know. I've heard that it's a little bit chunky in person.
The one thing I'd wonder about is pictures of the Moto 360 made it look really, really fat in the beginning, and you and I both worn this. It's not that fat of a watch. It's really comfortable.
I mean, it might be the sort of thing you just get used to. Although, I mean, one thing that I do like about the design is that it has the traditional lugs sort of separate from the body of the watch a little bit. I think that makes it look less bulky. Like the G Watch R has like the thing where like the whole body of the watch sort of morphs into the lugs, and that just makes it look gigantic, even though the screen is actually pretty small. So I mean, it does look a lot nicer than you know, most of the other watches. So I'm interested to see how that pans out.
Now, as far as I know, there hasn't been an official announcement on the cost of this particular device, but there's been some rumblings that it's going to be well, what I would consider priced out of the market at $1,000 a pop.
That would be, I haven't heard that. If that's true, that would be absolutely insane.
Yeah. I
don't think there's any confirmation of that, but that's the rumor going around, and that would be insane.
The Huawei, a company that makes very inexpensive phones, like as its entire business, that would be insane.
Yeah. So, anyways, they had a couple other products to announce too, Cody, right?
Yes, the TalkBand B2 and TalkBand in1. Basically, just kind of generic looking. I hate to put it that way, but it's the truth. They look like generic looking fitness bands, but they're sort of quasi smartwatches in a way. They're little modules that are detachable from the band, or at least the B2 is. I didn't get a chance to look at the B1 too closely, in1. But yeah, they just don't look that exciting.
Yeah, I don't know, like the whole smart accessory, or I'm sorry, fitness accessory thing, kind of feels overdone at this point. After CES, when absolutely everybody announced one, and now we've got a couple here at MWC. I agree, it's kind of hard to get excited about it.
Exactly, it's not too little, too late. It's just one more thing getting piled on the list, and it might have one distinct feature to it, but that's not really saying a whole lot.
So what about this? What about this Car-Fi product that Huawei had? Is that something that seems a little bit more unique and interesting?
It's unique, but I'm not sure how interesting it is. It's a module that plugs into the cigarette lighter on your car, DC power, whatever you want to call it, and you slip in a SIM card, and it gives you 4G LTE for up to 10 devices. It's basically the Wi-Fi hotspot your phone can offer, but you can plug it right into your car, which is kind of neat. It's, something that would be useful for like families as they're traveling or something like that. And support for up to 10 devices, I mean, come on, you're going to cover like a school bus pretty easily with something like that. But, how many people really need that? It's if you can do it from your phone, why are you going to go get a second device to put into your car?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of if it's a wireless hotspot that you can plug into your car. Well, so is my phone, and I don't use my phone for that. So yeah.
I do.
Do you tether Wi-Fi to your phone quite often, Bob?
Yeah.
I mean, I can see doing it with
the
tablets.
kids.
I can see doing it with tablets, and I guess if you got kids who are media players or iPod touches or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right, so let's talk about Alcatel. They had a new device, the Hero 2 Plus, that they announced this week, and it's going to be coming to the U.S. soon with cyanogen, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I think "let's talk about Alcatel" is a phrase that has never been uttered on this show before.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's worth talking about now because they're a cyanogen partner. They will be launching the Alcatel One Touch Hero 2 Plus with cyanogen. It will cost $299. It is an unlocked phone with LTE. It is a reasonably nice phone. It's definitely a mid-range device. It's a 6-inch 1080p screen. It has an octa-core MediaTek processor. Let's see, 2 gigs of RAM. It'll have Cyanogen OS 11 on it at launch, so that's KitKat. I don't think they said anything about an update, but presumably one will happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a sort of a nice mid-range device that runs Cyanogen. It's the same price though as the OnePlus One, which is spec'd better. So I don't know. It'll depend what that company does in a few months. I guess if their new ROM is any good, but I'm assuming they're going to try to keep the price of their next device pretty low as well.
Good deal. So we also had some announcements from Blackphone, of course, the provider of the ultra-security-minded Blackphone, by a similar name, of course. They had some new announcements regarding a privacy platform for enterprise, as well as some new hardware revisions. So, Bertel, what was new from Blackphone this week?
Yeah, so they've kind of stepped away from their whole paranoia-based advertising we saw with the original Blackphone. They're aiming straight for enterprise clients now. They've announced an upgraded phone, so better specs. They're having software features that isolate work data and personal data and to keep everything secure. They also announced a tablet and no information on it. You can watch in the post. It's a 9-second trailer that shows you the logo. It's a nice logo, I guess. And yeah, that's that.
I always think bat phone whenever I see it. It makes me sad when it's not the bat phone.
I want the bat phone.
I want them to announce colors for it so you can have a blue black phone.
Well, there you go. Private by design. All right, so let's move on to Code Google. I find it interesting that one of the features for the Blackphone is silent meeting. Silent meeting. Just sorry. All right, so Code Google Sundar. Okay, so I'm noticing that this headline might say Sunday.
Sunday Pichai.
Sunday Pichai. Sundar Pichai had a talk this week at MWC where he let slip some details that may pertain to the upcoming MVNO offering from Google. We might have a name for it. So, Ryan, what's new here? Did we learn anything, or is this all just what we already knew?
Well, I mean, kind of, sort of. He didn't like say like, yes, this is the thing that it's coming, and we're going to announce it, at I/O. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do talk about something like this. So it's basically, he said they're looking into planning sort of an MVNO service that'll integrate cellular and Wi-Fi in a seamless fashion. But it's not going to be a sort of a wide release thing. It's not going to go up against the big four carriers. It'll be more of like he compared it to a Nexus style service. So I don't know. Maybe that just means they're not going to like advertise it very much, or it'll be sold exclusively, like online through the Play Store or something. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a few months. It's really too early for us to say, like, yes, this is definitely happening and it's going to be awesome. But it would be nice if it did, and it was.
Well, based on what little information we do have, it's seeming more and more important that we get this HQ set up in Kansas City.
Yeah. That'd be sad if you could only get it in Google Fiber areas.
Right.
So is anyone here like really excited to have Google as their carrier?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like a few years ago it would have been a really big deal, but I mean, I live in a place where I can use T-Mobile. It works well for me, and their prices have gotten really good, and their benefits are pretty good. So it's hard for me to see what the advantage would be to using a Google MVNO that, I mean, maybe it would just run on T-Mobile and Sprint, in which case I don't really think I would benefit that much.
I think.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I'm in an area where I got two choices. I can get AT&T or I can get kind of crummy Verizon. And so even if I want to, there's not a choice. And Sprint and T-Mobile are still kind of those hit-and-miss networks. So I think that might still be their big catching point.
Well, if they're operating on the Sprint network, though, for their wireless aspect, that gets you kind of in the same boat, I think, wouldn't
it? I'm not sure what you're at.
Well, I'm saying if Sprint as a carrier isn't very viable in your area based on their coverage, and Google ties in with their network as an MVNO, then I don't know that it gets you a whole lot of benefit, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you don't have a choice on either of those networks, then Google's not going to come across any more attractive. Though, aren't they promising something like a voice over IP going over wireless networks pretty heavily? Wasn't that part of their big push?
Right. Yep.
I know where I live. That's just all kinds of awful.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just sort of took a stab at this, and then if it doesn't work out, maybe that's why they will want to keep it small. So in case they just can't figure out a way to make this a viable service, they can just sort of back out without messing up a lot of people's cell service.
Right.
I'm also not that keen on giving Google just that much more data. Not that the carriers are good, but at least it's separated somewhat.
Yeah, I don't know. I already have location history turned on everything, so I don't know what else they're really going to learn.
All right, so that wasn't the only upcoming product from Google or feature from Google that was sort of confirmed at the Mobile World Congress talk from Sundar. So there was also some hints towards Android Pay, right, Cody?
Yeah, there was. We already kind of knew a lot about Android Pay from an Ars Technica post that was talked about on last week's podcast. And this time it was basically just Sundar getting up on stage saying, yes, we have a thing called Android Pay. It's going to be really innovative and useful, and it will be important to other parts of the world. Or at least that was kind of the tone that I got out of his comment. So it's basically an open API to some degree where other providers might be able to step in where Google Wallet isn't entirely offerable. There's still a lot of vague stuff, so he didn't really do much more than confirm a name and that it's a thing that will work elsewhere in the world besides just the US. So it's kind of big, but it might not be, but it could be, but we'll see.
Awesome.
Pretty much sums it up. All right, so let's talk a little bit about encryption on devices. Obviously, when Google announced the Lollipop upgrade for Android, there was a lot of talk about the encryption that it brought to the table, and talk that maybe, just maybe, it was going to be mandatory on all devices from OEMs. That if you were going with Lollipop, you were going encrypted. But now it's looking like they might have backed down a little bit from that stance, Ryan?
Yeah, so a few devices now have come out with Lollipop, and they're not encrypted. So that leads you to wonder if maybe Google was not serious about that requirement. And indeed, when you look at the compatibility documents for Android 5.0, it no longer says that they must encrypt devices that ship with Lollipop. It just says that it is very strongly recommended, and in a future version of Android, it might become a requirement. So it sounds like they pushed that requirement back to at least the next version. I don't know, maybe indeterminate future, who knows? But so I have to assume that the Galaxy S6 and M9 will just come unencrypted by default. Apparently, the ones on the show floor were not encrypted, but you can never tell with the demo models. But I mean, as always, you'll be able to encrypt it if you want after you get it. But I guess it'll just remain optional for the time being, probably.
All right, sounds good. So it seemed like there was a pretty good concern about read-write speeds with encryption, right?
Yeah, I mean that seems to be a problem on some devices. I don't know if it's all down to encryption or what the deal is, but I guess if OEMs have another year or so to figure it out, maybe they'll figure out how to just sort of rely on hardware to do all the encryption stuff, and then they won't have to worry about it.
All right, Dan, one last little bit in the Google news this week. We have a new change in the Google Plus rank and file. So there's a new man at the top, right, Bertel?
Yeah, and I'm going to apologize up front for butchering everyone's names, but the old guy, David Besbris, he stepped down, and the vice president, Bradley Horowitz, is stepping up. And the interesting thing here is that it's been maybe half a year since the former president took over, and so yeah, Google Plus has had quite the changeover.
Yeah, it seems to remind me of kind of some rumors we heard around the time when Vic left about the product being split and that it was kind of dead in its current its current iteration, and we were just going to see it, split up and divided and all of
yeah,
that.
It's interesting to see how certain websites who shall remain nameless jumped on this story as proof that Google Plus was being split up because he referred to the products he was in charge of as photos and streams, and everybody's like, oh, that's it, they're splitting Google Plus up, and so a Googler had to actually clarify, no, these are just like the internal names that we use for the products because it describes what they do. So this isn't like some huge change in like the structure of Google's offerings. It's people just really want to, like, they want to be right about the Google Plus thing because when, like you said, when Vic Gundotra left, everybody sort of predicted the demise of Google Plus, and it hasn't happened yet. So any opportunity for them to say, no, look, we were right, they're taking it. But this was another example of it not being the end of Google Plus.
So like 15 years from now, when Google Plus does go away, because social media just isn't something that anybody cares about anymore at that point in time, there's going to be people who say, see? Told you. Only took 15 years, but we told you.
Yep, probably.
All right, let's move on to other news.
It's time for other news. You know that news at the beginning of the show? This is the other news portion.
All right, so while most of our attention was focused in Barcelona on the MWC conference, NVIDIA had a little bit of an announcement over in San Francisco of their own, announcing the gaming thing that they've been dreaming of for like 4 years or something. So Ryan, what did NVIDIA end up announcing?
They announced exactly what we predicted they would announce because it was pretty obvious. It is an Android TV box. It runs a Tegra X1 processor, and it does all of their game stream grid gaming stuff. And as part of that announcement, they also are talking for the first time about Grid, which is their cloud gaming platform as a real product. They're going to launch 2 subscriptions for it. They didn't say how much they will be yet, but you'll get a subscription, and then you'll be able to play high-end PC games on your NVIDIA Shield of choice. Because I mean, they really like the Shield names. I mean, the new box is just the NVIDIA Shield. Then there's the Shield tablet, and then the Shield Portable, which when it launched was just the NVIDIA Shield. So kind of confusing naming. But at any rate, Grid works on all of those, and it's going to be a real product soon. This device that they announced, it'll be $200 when it comes out in May, and that bundle includes a Shield controller, which is a $60 add-on if you buy the Shield tablet. So that's a pretty good deal. Interestingly, it will not come with the remote. They showed off a little remote that you can use for controlling, not games, but like the Android TV interface. I don't think they said how much that will be in addition, but this does look like a pretty cool device. I mean, for $200, it'll do, I think, pretty much everything you need a set-top box to do. Plus, all the game streaming stuff could be really cool if it works well. Although I think right now we're hearing the prices of the games will be kind of high. They'll be at least close, if not the same, as the full retail price if you just bought the game normally. So if you have a gaming PC already or a console, it's going to be kind of a hard sell to then pay, for the subscription to Grid and then also buy games on top of it.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say, you'd said that this is going to be a set-top box that's going to do anything you need it to, and I think that as far as Android TV is concerned, it is absolutely going to be that. The question, I guess, just comes down to, is the platform going to have the apps to support it being a replacement for Roku's and Fire TV apps that are out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting a little bit better. I'm not sure which, if they're still missing streaming services, but I think there are Android TV apps for most of the big ones. Also, if it does the private listening thing that Roku does, that's really cool. That's like my favorite thing about Roku, is that you can use the remote as like a wireless headset. So they do that, which I am pretty excited about.
Right?
Huh?
The not included remote.
Well, you can. I think you can do it with the controller too, because the Shield controller has a headphone jack. But yeah, so that stuff's all built in. Oh, and they showed off. I guess they're porting like some for real PC games to the Tegra X1 that will run locally, like not streamed from the cloud. So they have Borderlands the pre-sequel, Crysis 3, and Doom 3 BFG edition will all be available natively on Tegra X1, which is pretty cool actually. They're really pushing that this is a really powerful chip, and if NVIDIA gives you, access to the really low-level stuff, it looks like you can do really awesome things with it.
All right, so there was some other chip news out there from their biggest competitor, Qualcomm, more like the leader in the market when it comes to phones, with NVIDIA tending to live a little bit more on the tablet and extra device category. But Qualcomm has a new Snapdragon that they've announced. Seems like it's pretty quick after their last Snapdragon announcement, but there's another new one that's out there, and maybe this one does a little bit better with the heating/overheating issue. Ryan, what do we know about the 820?
Well, very little. I mean, this is basically Qualcomm saying, no, look, we're on the ball. We're going to have a new custom CPU core, because I think it's kind of obvious at this point they were not prepared to move to 64-bit as quickly as they needed to. So obviously the 810 right now is running ARM reference cores. The 820 that they just announced will run a new custom CPU core that Qualcomm is designing called Cryo. That's Kryo. And then, so that's going to start sampling to OEMs in the second half of this year. So you'll probably start seeing that in devices early next year. So basically, the 2016 flagships will quite possibly have this chip. But this year, I think it's just going to be Qualcomm using ARM reference cores.
Almost a lost year for Qualcomm, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, they I mean, I question how problematic the overheating thing is really with the 820. It might not be as big of a problem as the rumors led us to believe. I guess we'll find out when we get a couple more devices powered by the 810. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that they would have preferred to have their own 64-bit core ready to go, but I think they just got a little bit overconfident because almost every phone to get in the last few years has run a Qualcomm chip. And their modems, even now are the best out there. They have the most bands, so I guess they just kind of felt like they would be on top. But then, even though 64-bit doesn't make a ton of sense on a mobile device, it's a feature that you sort of want to have on the spec sheet. So that's they're just doing what they have to do, I guess.
All right. Well, I think it'd be a mistake if we would continue the show without talking about the new product that broke Kickstarter this week. Pebble introduced the Pebble Time Steel and smart straps. So this is obviously very shortly after the original Pebble Time was announced. So what's the story there, Bertel?
We're not getting audio.
No audio.
Are you muted, or did Hangouts break again?
There he is. No, he's not. He was there
No,
for a second.
Yeah, we heard audio for a second.
All right, am I back?
Yes.
All right, that's good. All right, where was I? Yeah, so Pebble's not wasting any time creating an updated version of their plastic watch. And this time, I think, this is what I wanted the first Steel to look like. You don't have the branding underneath, but the focus is on the watch. I think you have the option of a metal band, a leather band, and, it's pretty sleek. I think the downside is that you still have this Tamagotchi display, which kind of, and it's always on, so it kind of ruins the professional look of the device. And so they announced that. They also announced smart straps, which offer a nice way to expand a device without having to replace the core hardware. So you can have things like just like an expanded battery or an NFC chip inside the band itself, and you can swap them out easy because of the quick release pins. So I think that was also cool. And checking now, they're at $16 million and they're in pledge money, so folks are excited.
Now, I think the big thing that I think a lot of people kind of took issue with this particular product is that this was like, what, 6 days after they announced the Pebble Times? 6 days. I mean, we complain about a half of a product cycle. It's not even out yet, and they've already one-upped it. I don't know. Is there any thoughts anybody has behind why they might have iterated it so quickly?
Well, they probably just wanted to get everybody's attention. Like while the Kickstarter is blowing up and everybody's talking about it, they didn't want to announce this 6 months down the road, like after they've already shipped the time. And at least they are giving everybody that already pledged to get the regular time a chance to upgrade to the time Steel if that's what they want to do.
I wonder how many people who backed the original Pebble Time didn't upgrade.
I think it's one of those things where, to a certain extent, they appeal to different folks. Like a lot of folks have the plastic Pebble and they just want the cheaper watch, so it's not really going to bother them that the luxurious one is coming out a few days later. Especially since they haven't actually launched, so there's not really buyer's remorse yet.
Yeah, and they're not going to get the Steel version out until I think July, they said. So, I mean, at least, doing this Kickstarter for like a second product is kind of weird, but they didn't do like, here are some stretch goals and, it's going to ship sometime next year. They're like, look, pre-order this now and we're going to ship it to you in May or whatever. But now they add the second one, like, well, this one isn't going to be ready quite as soon. It'll be, July. So I feel like this feels more like a traditional Kickstarter product where they're like, they're just sort of announcing this thing like, we'll get it later. So some people might just be willing to get the plastic watch. It's like, look, I know I'll get this one on time probably. Let's just, call it a day.
I kind of feel like they're doing this so that they could get the hype on the initial launch. And if we'll call them customers, but if the backers have the feel that they're that they have a choice, they might think about it more. It's that old explanation for why Apple has such a small product line, because the more choices customers have to make, the more time they have to talk themselves out of it.
Yeah, the smart straps I think are pretty interesting. I guess the possibilities with that are pretty cool. All the different things you could add on that way. In theory, I mean, it connects to the charging ports on the back of the watch, so in theory you could do maybe even like a Qi wireless charging strap, or any number of different things. So I don't know. That might be interesting to see what people do with that. It might be.
It looks kind of awkward though. It looks like it's going to screw up the ergonomics of the back to have that extra piece of plastic like laid over
make it lean one way or the other on your wrist.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, who knows? Maybe I mean, I'm sure that's just a render of what the things might look like. They might have a different idea about how to connect them when they actually make something.
How long has the original Pebble been around for now? Did they go over a year? Were they closer to?
I think we're just a little over a year now, aren't we?
A year. Okay, because I imagine this would give them a way to just sort of go more than a year between revisions if they can just replace the strap and add in some new features that way.
Yeah. Increase the product cycle, allow more time for innovation, I guess. Makes sense. All right, so the one last little bit of other news to hit on this week comes from Sandisk. Not exactly a company we talk about a whole lot on the show this week, but they kind of blew the micro SD card capacity limits out of.
Yeah, they announced a 200 gigabyte micro SD card, and that's a lot of space you can stick in your M9 that you can't stick in your S6. So.
A little dig. Got to get the digging. All right, good deal. So the price seems a little bit exorbitant, though. What's it going for? $400? Something insane like that?
Yeah, it's in here somewhere. It's basically the price of a second phone, so.
Right.
Hey, you could just get another phone to store more stuff. Why do you need to get a card?
Yeah, but your second phone's only going to be another 32 gigs, and what can you do with that?
Useless.
I don't know. Or you could just get a 128 gig Galaxy S6. I mean, whatever. It's like you're losing like 70-something gigs. Whatever. It's close enough.
I mean, it's going to be cheaper just to get a couple 128 gig cards and swap those out.
Yeah, I mean, in a few years, this might be a more reasonably priced option. But yeah, for now, I don't know how many people are going to buy a 200 gig SD card.
Yeah.
But you can.
You can. It's there. It's a thing. You can buy it, and just because it exists, somebody will.
People who bought that $1,200 Sony media player will probably buy this.
But I don't know. This is not an SD card that's optimized for sound. I don't think.
Right. Yeah. So they might have to turn their nose up at that.
It might not store at the right frequency or some. Whatever.
The contacts aren't coated in enough gold.
Right. Platinum.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we have a voicemail. Bob, you want to cue that up?
Sure. We have a voicemail.
Hello, AP. This is Matt with his unending list of questions. I have a lollipop question for you. This is specifically related to a Moto X 2014 device, but I'm wondering if this is a wider lollipop issue. I'm having a fascinating issue on my phone where when I move particular files from my PC to my phone using the USB cable, specifically AVI files or M3U files, I can actually not delete the file from the phone itself. I can't even rename the file. If I try renaming it, the original file stays there, and a second file is created with the new name. So there's definitely some sort of software caching or a permissions issue that seems to be occurring. I can normally delete the file from my PC, again, when I reattach it to the phone to my PC using the USB cable. I was wondering if you had heard of any other issues on Lollipop with this. I have spoken with Motorola support and got some fascinating answers. They want to see the virus, but that I somehow transferred from my PC to my Android device, regardless of the different OSs that are running on there. Again, I was just wondering if you'd heard of this issue happening. Maybe it's a bug within Lollipop. Also be curious if you had any ideas of how to resolve the issue. At this point, I'm planning on just factory resetting my phone and seeing if that helps. But your thoughts are always appreciated. Take care and have a great day.
Any thoughts?
So I mean, the first thing I would do if something like that happened is try to get the files on the phone in a different way and make sure that they work properly. I mean, if you can just like use Dropbox or Drive or something to move the files and just make sure that they are functioning as intended. And then at that point, at least you'd know it's something up with either the computer or the way it's being transferred to the device. I mean, it just in general, like the USB stuff on Android, it has been super buggy for me ever since they moved away from USB mass storage. So I just kind of don't use it anymore. If I need to get something on the phone, I can usually just download it from someplace in the cloud. But yeah, do that first, and then I haven't heard about this specifically happening, but my feeling would be that it might be something more going on with permissions on your computer than the phone itself. But yeah, I don't know. If anybody else has any ideas.
I was actually going to mention file management stuff as always. He mentioned Lollipop, but my gut instinct is saying that if he were to use a file manager such as ES File Explorer or something like that on the device and either rename or delete files directly on the device, I'm betting that he will not have the problem, which seems to suggest, which would suggest, like Ryan was just mentioning, that this may be more of an issue with the file management software you're using on the PC side, whether it's Android file transfer or whatever software you're using there. Is there? Does anybody know? Is there a Moto specific file management software for PC?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they have like their own file transfer thing. They have like Chrome plugins and whatnot, but.
Another possibility might be to, if you haven't, can you enable developer mode and maybe try to switch from the, what is it, MTP to PDP or whatever? I don't know the acronyms.
Yeah. Whichever one of those you're using, try using the other one. I don't think. Do you have to turn on developer mode to change that? I usually turn on developer mode on everything. So
I don't know. I think it depends on the device whether or not it auto pops up the option when you're tethered by a USB.
Try switching to the other one of that. I can, I actually, like, probably 75% of the time I can't get MTP to work, like, at all, so I just end up using PDP when I have to transfer something over USB. I don't know. It's just always been weird and buggy for me.
But this brings up another point, which I would have to kind of jump on what Ryan was saying there. I think that really tethered file transfer should, they want it to go away. They're expecting you to use Drive or Dropbox or some other type of wireless technology, I think, to get these files on and off your device, and I don't think you're going to have the same types of problems if you move to that type of solution.
Yeah, I actually, some probably even years ago at this point in time, there was a free app of the day on Amazon for this Wi-Fi file explorer that I downloaded, and every time I've needed to mute,
I got that too.
Yeah, anytime I feel the need to move something from my computer to my tablet or my phone, I find that works pretty well.
Yeah, apps like that are actually probably a good alternative too, because then you don't have to rely on your internet connection to get stuff. You can push things over your local Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I pretty much use those in AirDroid. Can't remember the last time I plugged in.
Yeah, so I guess our advice is basically just stop using the USB cable. It's broken. Just do something else.
It doesn't address the problem, but it does give you a sensible workaround. I think, though, some of the things that we mentioned like trying file manipulation directly on the device, maybe trying a different file manager or a different connection type will be your best bet to kind of narrow down where this behavior happens and then go from there. Cool. I think that's it, gents.
Word. Bob, you want to cue the outro, sir?
I can do that. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. As always, send your feedback to podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also call us at 530-HELLO-AP. That's 530-435-5627. Find us on Twitter at Android Police, Google Plus, and Facebook. Every now and then I slur and sound like I'm drunk. Find us on Twitter at Android Police.
I just assumed that you were drunk.
It used to be that I were drunk.
I just assumed that you were drunk.
Matt, we haven't actually had any beverages in several weeks. What's up with that?
Well,
we'll have a drunk show once everybody is back and we're on our regular cast schedule again. Then we'll just get hammered.
What happened was we had a sponsor that one week, and I was like, "Oh crap, we got to be moderately professional."
Well, I wanted to take this time to thank Cody for joining us for his first episode this week. Also, Bertel is becoming a regular around here. We appreciate that. Although we may have to yell at him for that Chromebook lagging every week. I don't know. Something's up with that.
We should yell at Google.
I accept your yelling.
Podcast@androidpolice.com. Singular. Podcast singular at androidpolice.com.
Yeah, Brian, sorry, the email did end up coming through, but it was a little bit too late. We had already queued the outro when it hit the inbox, so sorry about that.
Cool. You know what I forgot to do at the beginning of the show, you guys? Press the record button.
Haha.
All right, time to go. No,
Thank goodness
go
YouTube
again.
has our back.
YouTube, let's hope.
Well, we all know our lines now.
Hey, let's start over. It was only about 20 minutes of the beginning of the show I missed.
Okay, but you think you'll be able to harvest the audio from YouTube?
We'll see.
Oh boy. The 20 minutes were the best minutes too. Don't want to miss those.
No one cares about the M9, the S6.
Actually, I think what I'll do is if I can't salvage the first 20 minutes of the show, what I'll actually do is recreate it with puppets and put it out as a video podcast.
Actually, I think we should just start doing that. If we just had puppet edition of every podcast, that would be really excellent.
I could do that with me. I'm not much of the show anyway, so I can just be a puppet from now on. That'll work.
You even have some puppets around here, don't you?
I'm sure I do.
Somewhere.
I don't know, Matt. You borrowed all my puppets and inflatables. Oh, that's not true. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you hopefully next week. Again, we appreciate you guys on the show this week, and have a good night, everybody.
So long.
Good night.
All right. Peace out.